Here's a history lesson you're not going to believe. Over 100 million people were killed by dictators in the last century, and they have one thing in common about the guns. We're going to show you what it is. Let's talk about something else. This is some scary stuff. This is something I've got a lot of interest in, and I know our viewers do as well. This chart shows a number of dictators of the last century: Hitler, Fidel Castro, Gaddafi, Libya, Stalin, Idi Amin in Uganda, Mao Zedong, Pol Pot, the Kim family in Korea. You know what all these people have in common? Every single one of these dictators that murdered, between all of them, over 100 and something million people. Every single one of them, when they took power, every single one of them did the same thing. Banned what? Guns. Rounded them up, and then the killing started. Here's some examples.
Yep.
It's not even on here. In 1911, Turkey established gun control. Between 1915 and 1917, 1.5 million Armenians were unable to defend themselves, were rounded up and exterminated by Turkey. It's called the Armenian Genocide. In 1929, the Soviet Union established gun control. Between 1929 and 1953, 20 million people under the control of the Soviets, unable to defend themselves, were rounded up and exterminated. Germany, under Hitler, established gun control in 1938. And from 1939 to 1945, 13 million were rounded up and exterminated, of which 6 million were Jews. China established gun control in 1935. From 1948 to 1952, 20 million Chinese, unable to defend themselves, were rounded up and exterminated. Guatemala, gun control in 64. In 1964 through 81, 100,000 Mayans rounded up and exterminated. Uganda, under Idi Amin, gun control in 1970. Between 1971 and 1979, 300,000 Christians. Cambodia, gun control in 1956. By 1977, they estimate 1 million Cambodians were slaughtered because they couldn't defend themselves. Well, what would happen if there was gun control like this in the United States?
The exact same thing. The exact same thing. And Barry, that's what they're pushing for. Like I mentioned earlier, they're trying to force people to take
Kung flu.
Right? They want to force people to do that. Once they remove the guns, they can force everybody to do anything. Now, they want to be able to come in with guns. That's why they're arming the IRS right now with armed agents, but they want to disarm the rest of us. And you know, it's really interesting, Barry, to make it possible, or they're trying to push this narrative to make it possible and give legitimacy behind taking the weapons from everybody, is that, oh my goodness, look at all of these shootings. These shootings, we have to do something to prevent the shootings. And just like Stalin did and Hitler and a whole lot of them, a lot of them use children, Barry. We have to do this to protect the children. And as soon as that happened, guess what? People were like, yeah, we need to protect the children. We need to protect the children. And then the children were not protected after they took them all. And that's repeating history all over again. And most people don't even know the history. And again, you tell them this, they don't care. They do not care.
Well, we talk about it all the time, which I don't understand why we can't figure this out. But Chicago, as an example, is one of the murder capitals of the world for a city. They've got gun-free zones everywhere. They've invested a lot of money in gun-free zones at parks, rec centers, arenas, and especially schools. And I can't figure out why people don't read the signs and follow the rules, which is to say, pull over and throw your gun out the window. I just don't understand it, right? It doesn't make sense to me why people literally are not listening.
Why do you think? I mean, you know, you're absolutely right. And when they target people, they never target the criminal. You notice they never bring up the criminal that's committing these horrible crimes, unless it's a white person that doesn't have a manifesto, or that leans towards them being non-binary or whatever it is that they want to be. As long as they can find a straight white male to go in and do this horrible crime, then they'll talk about the criminal in that case. But when it comes to, for example, like Tennessee, they won't even release the transcript, the manifesto for the one in Tennessee. Why would they do that? Don't they want to get it out? Don't they want everybody to know what this person was saying? No, because it goes against their narrative. And I talked about this as well too, Barry. If we could stop the per se gun violence, okay, because there's really no gun violence, it's just people using a gun for violence. But if we could stop the gun violence, the left, they would lose their agenda. They wouldn't have anything. There would be nothing for them. And so they don't want to alleviate. They don't want to remove gun violence from the schools, from the playground, from the movie theater.
I saw an interesting video this morning. It was about statistics from Chicago. The vast majority, it's something like 86% of the perpetrators are black male gang members using something like 96% illegally obtained firearms, meaning no law would prevent it.
And they're primarily handguns.
Thank you. And it's like 99% handguns. So all this stuff about AR-15, which they call assault weapons, which is just basically a rifle. It is a rifle that doesn't shoot any faster than any other rifle, right?
Yeah.
Banning that is just a step towards banning everything. In the history of gun violence in Chicago, it's like 1/1000th of 1% of the crime is used with a semi-automatic rifle, and 99% are handguns, of which 86%, I think, are illegally obtained. And it's black on black gang crime, none of which has anything to do with racism or gun control or signs, right?
But we just had a guy on MSDNC just the other day said that there was more white on white crime than there is black on black crime. And I'm like, how's that even possible? And then he put his video on Twitter. Then he got upset because Twitter flagged his video as putting out false information, which he actually did. And they put out the actual statistics. The white people in the country, in the United States of America, make up 60.1%. 61%. Black people in the country make up 12.2%. And this was doing a study. I think this was doing 2019 when they did this study. 12.2%. Black people, specifically the black male, which make up about 6% of that 12%, right? They commit 56% of the most violent crimes throughout the entire country. And then they added up the numbers with the white people, white on white crime, which came to like 2,500 and 2,557 or 75, something like that. And then they then did the numbers of black on black crime, which came to 2,557, just a little bit less. But we're still talking about a lot less on the population. But they're trying to say it's the exact same because they don't ever talk about white on white crime. And the reason being, Barry, because you don't see white people out in the streets fighting like. Can I say it? Can I say it? Can I say it?
How dare you?
I think we made the point.